I'm Sasha Stefanovic from Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Brags in the Stands.
Boiler up. Let's go. The Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Bottle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What have I told you? 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought.
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
Ridiculous.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brags in the Stands, and I am your host, Gregory Braggs Jr., and this is my co-host, Johnny B for 3.
What's up?
Race extraordinaire, Chiefs fanatic, frequent Super Bowl goer. 2 times you've been now.
That's right.
More than me, but a man that wears many hats. How are we doing tonight, Johnny B?
I am doing fantastic. We're starting to get into a lot of sports happening at one time, and I think it's good because I'm a huge football withdrawal. I can't even take it. But now that we're getting into March Madness, I'm getting excited. Baseball right around the corner, so let's go.
That's right. March Madness, we're almost in the thick of it, obviously. March right around the corner here, or I don't even know. I'm losing track of my dates because we're in the middle of a pandemic. But March Madness, Big Ten tournament right around the corner. So we're diving deep into it. We got Evan Boudreau from formerly of the Purdue Boilermakers coming on here in just a little bit. Really excited to see him, as you see a nice shot of him from our guys from ISC Purdue, my good buddies over there, Dave Kovich and all those guys. They do great work. There he is sitting next to Sasha on, I believe, senior night. And Evan will be joining us here in just a few moments to talk a little Big Ten basketball because, there's a lot going on. Ohio State and Michigan State are just about to get underway. Michigan State winning a huge game the other day over Illinois, but Purdue had their eyes tonight on the Iowa-Michigan game, which just concluded. Michigan losing by about 20 points, which
Michigan winning by 22
yeah,
points.
Michigan winning by exactly, Johnny B. Winning by about 20 points. So these Big Ten standings that I had prepared for tonight's show are changing at the moment. So Michigan moves to 12-1 and Iowa falls to 11-6. So most importantly is what their Big Ten record is. So as you can see, Purdue is climbing and trying to jump Iowa and Ohio State. And as I said, Iowa just lost and Ohio State's just about to get underway against Michigan State. So there's a lot to be had for the Purdue Boilermakers. So I'll be interested to hear Evan Boudreau's input on all that. I was talking to him earlier, and it seemed like he was, geared into this and dialed into this and been following along like the rest of us now that he has wrapped up his career with Purdue, and obviously he started his career at Dartmouth. So excited to talk to him about it. Yes, of course, we have a lot of Illinois fans that are in our chat and watching our shows, and we appreciate everybody that shows up. And yes, Illinois just beat Nebraska. Io DeSumo sat out tonight. He took a tough hit the other night in their loss to Michigan State. So they won without their best player, trying to hold. I think they were looking at winning the Big Ten, but now that Michigan smacked them in the mouth a little bit, I think they're just trying to hold those top 4 seeds for the double bye in the Big Ten tournament. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, I think so. They obviously had a tough loss, Illinois against Michigan State a few nights ago. It was my total parlay killer, just to let you know. They figured they could handle business tonight with, against who did they
Nebraska.
play? Nebraska, which they pulled away late. And now I think they're doing exactly what you just said.
And Purdue just played Nebraska, and our boy Sasha Stefanovic had a big night. I didn't get any of the video pulled, but he's been struggling since he came back from COVID. He was on fire before the COVID hit, and he had to sit out 17 games. Sasha Stefanovic, shooting guard for the Purdue Boilermakers, for those that don't know who I'm referencing, and he. When he came back, I think he was like 0 for 12 from 3 when he first came back, like literally just couldn't buy a bucket. His rotation minutes had changed a little bit. Jaden Ivey and Brandon Newman obviously are making a big mark on this team as freshmen. So it's exciting to watch those guys kind of come into their own. But Sasha's trying to figure out, how to get back into the groove and rhythm of things. And it was nice to see the other night against Nebraska, him finally break out. He hit 4 threes at the end of the game. And I believe he had like 14 points in the second half total, leading them as Nebraska and Purdue were pretty tight until about 10 minutes to go. And then those threes were a big part of the reason they extended that win and won comfortably. And so you get that going with Purdue. And now, like I said, you got Jaden Ivey and Brandon Newman making huge impact. Brandon Newman from the region over here where me and Johnny B are living right now, St. John and Crown Point, of course. And, I just think it's really exciting to see this team kind of come to fruition. And then you got Zach Edey, another freshman, behind Travion Williams making a big impact, and Mason Gillis, who at the beginning of the year, I'm sitting there like, what is this guy's role going to be? And he has filled out this Grady Eifert role tremendously, and he's their hustle guy, and he makes very few mistakes. It's a lot of fun to watch. Like I said, these freshmen come of age and then kind of mold with what these juniors Travion, Eric Hunter, Sasha, and the rest of them are doing. So I think Purdue is a team that can really excite in the madness. They got to get there first. I'm not taking anything for granted. Last year was a tough year. If they had played a tournament, Purdue likely would not have made it. So I'm not counting any chickens, but I do feel like they have a great chance. And if they get there, I think they really do have a chance to make some noise this year.
And obviously this year with the virus and everything, sports are about rhythm. It's about getting hot at the right time. These younger guys that maybe didn't play as many minutes in the past, or the newer players finding their roles, like you just said. And if you get hot at the right time, you don't know what can happen. You can catch fire, and we've seen it in every sport from the pros to college level. And as far as Sasha goes, there's a lot of talk about certain guys, even in the NFL, that had the virus that took a while to get back, whether it be with their wind or their energy level. And if you're a 3-point shooter, you lost all those minutes, you lost all those reps. All of a sudden, you don't have that rhythm in your shot. And this just takes a little bit of a spark. You have a game like you just mentioned where he hits a few in a row, gets it, extends that lead, gets hot, confidence comes back. And then as he starts feeling the legs at the right time, as they go down the stretch, it could be big things.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time. He's missing all these shots, but he's like before he went out, he was the best shooter in all the entire Big Ten, shooting percentage wise. And there's a reason for that. He's got one of the sweetest strokes out there. Him and Brandon Newman got 2 of them, and they're both on Purdue. So that's a good thing. And so it was only a matter of time to me. Like I said, rotation kind of changed a little bit. He's got to work his way back and build his minutes up. I think Painter had talked about in his last interview with Rob Blackman on the Matt Painter show. He talked about how his minutes had elevated by like 5 or 10 in each one. In this last game, obviously, he got big minutes at the end and was going off. So to me, it was only a matter of time. It's just about this whole team kind of molding together, and everything coming together at the right time. They've got the big man, Travion Williams and Zach Edey, doing work down low. They know what they get out of Mason Gillis, and everyone's kind of fallen into their roles. And Jaden Ivey and Brandon Newman are the wild cards because they have so much potential and can do so many different things. And Jaden Ivey can break down guys off the dribble, and that creates a second guy that can draw double teams. So I just think there's so many new dynamics now that we didn't have at the start of the season. It's really exciting stuff. More exciting stuff here on Brags in the Stands is who's joining us tonight here on Brags in the Stands. More special guests coming your way, and made a nice little video intro to bring in my guy here from formerly of the Purdue Boilermakers. And of course, Dartmouth is our guy, Evan Boudreaux, as you see him cross the screen, running out the tunnel with one of the best teams Purdue has ever seen. They won the Big Ten title that day, the 24th Big Ten title, and it was a lot of fun to experience that. Evan, welcome to Brags in the Stands. We appreciate you coming on. What was it like to, in your first year transferring over, all of a sudden you run into, this crazy whirlwind of a Purdue basketball team that doesn't lose at home, and they go on to win a Big Ten tournament and have all this crazy success in the March Madness tournament? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was nuts. Obviously, I came from a place where we didn't have 15,000 in the stands every night, and we didn't have near the support that Purdue has. So to walk into a situation like that where the team was, and that's the crazy thing, right? We weren't even picked to win the Big Ten. We weren't picked. I think we were 8th or 9th in the standings in the preseason.
I couldn't remember that because you guys just were, reeling off wins. It was this is just how it's supposed to be. That was my first year as a season ticket holder, and you guys didn't lose at home. I was just like, okay, this is how it is.
Drive down for the game and get a W is just like a tradition, like none other, right?
Yeah, it was nuts. I got to say, there's nothing like walking out to 15,000 strong, every night. It's crazy. That team was so special too, because you walk in, right? And I don't know what to expect. I'm a small college guy. I had met the guys, but you don't know what to expect. You walk into a new team, right? And that team was ready made to win. We had all the pieces that fit so well together. It was crazy. It was super fun to be a part of that.
Well, and I'm excited to ask you a lot about that stuff. And again, welcome to the show. I've been talking to you here in the DMs about coming on here in the last couple of weeks, and I also want to introduce my co-host. I'm terrible about doing this stuff. This is my guy, JohnnyB. I know I do this when I go out with my wife too. I got to make sure I introduce everyone that's with me. And of course, this is my co-host, JohnnyB. He was my neighbor and diehard Chiefs fan, as you can see, and a good friend. So we're excited to chop it up with you here, Evan. But I did want to rewind back. You mentioned, how you started with the 15,000 fans at Mackey, but prior to playing at Purdue, you played at Dartmouth, and you followed in your mom's footsteps, who was legendary at Dartmouth, 3-time Ivy League Player of the Year. There she is with the smooth jump stroke there. And what was that like for you to start your college career following in your mom's footsteps with the history she had already at that school?
Yeah, it was something that was really special to me. Coming out of high school, it was one of those things where I looked at the program, and I had different options coming out of high school. I could have gone a high major. I could have done a bunch of different things, and I kind of looked at it as a really cool opportunity. My brother was a football player there. He's 4 years older, so I had time to spend up there. I was really comfortable with the school. I thought it was such a cool opportunity. They haven't been to the tournament. I think it's 1958 still. I thought that would be super cool to be the guy, to have my class be the class to bring them back. I knew how much it would mean to the school, to the community. And, that was one of the leading reasons I chose to go there, was to kind of carry on that legacy and build on it in my own way.
Yeah, it's cool. When I was researching back and seeing some of these pictures, I can only imagine what that was like for you, and now obviously, I'm sure when you get interviewed, very rarely are you not asked about your mom, because she's not only known for her, prowess on the court, but her influence off the court. And I've seen you retweet a few things here over the summer. She was listed by Fortune magazine as one of the most powerful, influential, women in the world, with her, in her background in the health department. What is that like for you to, grow up and, have your mom be so influential on bigger picture, bigger world, things like that?
It's super cool. I think one of the coolest parts is I see her still as like mom, right? So to me, she's still like mom. She still has her quirks and stuff that I see every day, and I love it about her, because she's a super down to earth person. I mean, she carries all this weight on her shoulders, and she does incredible things in the professional world. But at the end of the day, when she comes home, she's still mom to me, and we still get to have all those experiences and do all those things. But to have someone like that in my own house to, ask questions to, like, in regards to like my career and the choices I make. I mean, she played professional basketball. She's kind of done everything that I'm hoping to do in the future, especially in the business world. So having that resource and having her, as my mom is unbelievable.
Yeah. And, you saw in the quote, the influential and just being a good person. I've met her a few times after games, the last few years, and you both your parents you were such warm, people and huge fans. What I loved about them was how spirited they would be in the stands, because that's how I am. That's how basketball should be, and that's how the fan, when we ever get fans back in the stands, that's definitely how it should be. And, so that must be very cool for you, because, like I said, to have that kind of background and everything else, so, now you go to Purdue, and like you mentioned, it's kind of like Mackey, 15,000 fans. What was it like for you to, be coached by Matt Painter, who I think is one of the top coaches in the country? What was that like, that adjustment? Was the academics tougher, obviously in the Ivy League? Like, was it easier to be able to like focus on what you're trying to do on the basketball court in that sense? And then the transition of what Matt Painter expects out of you, as an athlete and a student.
Yeah. So, there's a lot there, right? So when I started,
triple barreled question.
Yeah. So I don't know if people know this, but I graduated on a Sunday and I had practice on a Monday in the summer. So like, I literally took a flight and I was like there. So I really just got kind of thrown into it, and I had to spend that whole year off that I took, I didn't unfortunately have access to all the facilities that I was used to. So I had to actually like shoot in the co-rec and like play pickup with like my fraternity brothers at Dartmouth and like stuff like that. So to come in, and obviously I knew what to expect, but when you walk in and you've got NBA guys and you've got high level college players, it takes a little bit to get up to full speed. And so that first summer was tough just to kind of get my feet back under me. But in terms of the support that Purdue gives and the support that the athletes have from the coaches, the support staff, the community, I mean, everyone around you wants you to succeed, and they genuinely are putting you in the best position you can. I mean, it was one of those things that at a smaller school, I was kind of like, I know it's out there, but I don't know what it's like. And when I got to Purdue, I really got the full experience of what high level sports in college can be. They really treat you like professionals. They let you be professionals, while at the same time making sure that you do all your school stuff. So I came into an environment where I really felt like they want the athletes to succeed, and they're doing everything they can to make that happen.
How did Matt Painter find you? I know you grew up in Lake Forest, Illinois. You went to high school out there. Was he recruiting you out of high school? It was, or did he let you know kind of you were on his radar kind of thing? Because when you came over to Purdue, like you mentioned, you first started, I went to some of those practices where they let fans in, and I was like, you're sizing up everybody on the team, and you're like, who's this guy? But after a while, and I can remember coming up to you and telling you this, you always impressed me because, at first you're unassuming, and anybody will tell you that, but then after a while, you start showing all the different moves you have. You may not be the biggest power forward or the fastest guy, but you have different moves and you know how to use your body. And so for me, I always admired how you carried yourself coming over, maybe different. You have to assume a different role. That's something all these players right now on this Purdue team have to go through, understanding what their rotational minutes are. And then on your senior video, I appreciated the words you had about, being that role and assuming that and doing what's best for the team. What were your thoughts about that?
Yeah. And when I got there, right, I had played 4 and some 5. But you've seen, I'm like 6'8", on a good day. And when I was there, I was about 220, 225. Right. And then I came in and I was asked to fill in at center because, Trey was a freshman and Matt was the only real center there. And so, having to, coming into summer workouts and having to figure out how to get 7 foot, 240 out of the lane and 6'9" at the time, like 300 out of the lane, was quite a experience for me. Led to a lot of ice baths after practice and stuff like that. But it was one of those things where like they asked me to do it, and it was just something that I had to do. I didn't love necessarily getting the crap beat out of me every day, but like it was one of those things where you got to do it, right? And I was lucky where I worked my way to be able to play forward my last year there, which I was really happy about. But it just comes down to having to do anything they really need. Was it my plan when I transferred to play a lot of be a starting Big Ten center? Not necessarily, but like I think it's cool that it worked out that way.
Well, that's the definition of a team guy, and what Greg was kind of talking about, it sounded like the basketball intelligence to be able to do that. Get that experience, taking your beatings. Get the new guy fill in the role, whatever they need you to, and then get to do what you really wanted to do. Down the stretch there. So.
For sure. Yeah.
So, Evan, another thing you had was an all-time moment. I don't know if you remember this, but this is one of the greatest passes in NCAA history, right off the dude's face.
And he made it after this too.
There's a putback. That was a wild game one. You guys were just on fire, making a million threes. Mm-hmm. But what are your memories of to me, one of the greatest passes? And then say, did you mean to? I mean,
no. So it was so funny because what happened was I was trying to throw it to Eric right in the corner. I was trying to throw it over my shoulder to Eric, and either someone hit my arm or the ball slipped out of my hand, and there was nowhere for it to go. It just slipped right in his face. And when you're in the moment, you don't have time. You're just trying to get the ball and figure it out. And
what did he say to you?
He was just so stunned, and I was running back down the court laughing. I was like, "That is top 5 moment." That was the first thing when I got into the locker room. I looked at my phone. I was like, "Please tell me someone like clipped this. And put
Yes, I immediately put it to Twitter. I'm always around with my video ready for something, and of course that was a very funny moment. But obviously you had a much greater moments. Obviously, like I said, winning a Big Ten championship. There you are, hoisting the 24th Big Ten championship, the most in the entire Big Ten. What was that like for you to put that trophy above your shoulders?
Yeah, it was really cool. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to come to a place like Purdue is to win trophies like that. I mean, that's why you go to a place like that. I mean, that's why you come to Purdue. That's why you put in all those hours and do that kind of thing. When I transferred, it was a super hard decision, and it was one where I had to kind of bet on myself. And I wanted to go to a place that won. I didn't want to, go to a place where I was going to lose 24 games in a season again. And so finally getting that validation was really satisfying. I'll always have that ring. It's always something I can look back on with super fond memories.
Yeah, it was an amazing season to watch unfold. And then, of course, you guys go to the March Madness all the way to the Elite Eight, almost come this close to getting to the Final Four. What were your memories of Ryan Klein and Carson Edwards putting on a show the way they did in that tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain. I mean, you see stuff like that in practice, but never to that level and never on that stage, right? So when you're watching it, I mean, you're almost watching kind of in awe too, just because the stuff that they were doing was just so crazy. And I know I can speak for my team when we say that, like, the support that we had in Louisville was unparalleled. I mean, like 90 minutes before the game, the stadium was almost filled, and it was almost all Boilermakers. I mean, it was just crazy. So yeah, those are definitely games I'm not going to forget anytime soon. They were crazy.
Yeah, it was my biggest regret. We planned a Florida vacation that same weekend. I didn't really think about it. Normally I'm better about those kind of things, planning ahead, but we were going down there to see my pops. So we went down, and I was like, we watched both games, and they were so exciting, the Tennessee game, and then obviously the Virginia game was so tough. And that was the same year as the double doink. I don't know if you're a big Bears fan.
I'm a Packers fan.
You're a Packers fan?
I won't hold it against you. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, Evan. No.
What happened in the NFC Championship?
Get him out of here. He's out. He's out. Good.
Rodgers, Mahomes. What happened?
Oh,
the refs got you too.
Yeah,
you both. Yeah, you both got Brady'd. You both got Brady,
bro.
Oh yeah, how'd that feel? You guys underestimated the Terminator.
The game that they lost, Braggs. We won that game. You keep showing that picture. We won that one.
Oh, poor Johnny B. He'll be all right. He won a Super Bowl, and you will be too, because you guys got one with Aaron Rodgers. I'm the one struggling trying to find a quarterback. Thank you very much. So now, like I said, you win the Big Ten championship, all that greatness, and like I was bringing up with the double doink, I honestly had never been more. I was more upset about that loss than I was about the double doink. I really was, because like I know how rare those opportunities are for college kids. Like you get a 4-year window. It's even smaller than that, as an athlete, because you don't get to play those first couple of years or however it shakes out for you. So I just knew what was at stake, and it was like, man, it was crazy. It was such a great game, but such a thrilling run. And I know Purdue fans, even though it ended tough, it will always hold that as one of the greatest seasons in Purdue history. And that was really cool that you were a part of it. And then the next year was a lot of fun, kind of watching you guys kind of grow, like this year, trying to work your way up a different way. It wasn't the same Purdue team. But like I said, it was a lot of fun to watch you guys play that year. And you had a big night on senior night. I believe it was against Wisconsin, right? Where you really, really stuck it to them. A lot of fun to watch. But really what I wanted you to touch on was how it ended, because to me, I felt so bad for all you guys, and especially you seniors. And there was, I believe, 3 of you, Proctor, Tommy Luch, and yourself, that had your seasons cut short, and who knows how it would have ended. Maybe you make the tournament or the NIT, either way, but you didn't get to end it on your own terms. How hard was that for you, and how long did that take you to kind of come to grips with? And then meanwhile, you're getting, blown into this pandemic that we all have to live with in the reality outside of sports.
Yeah, I think the toughest part was just, you didn't get to kind of go out like swinging, like most seniors, at least, even if they might not make the tournament, they get a last game. They know it's their last game. You get to prepare for it, like, mentally. For us, like, we were ready to play Ohio State, and we finished shoot around, and they just said, guys, like, they canceled the tournament. It's done. And so I think we played at maybe 6. I was home. I'd gone back to Purdue and driven back to Indy. And I was sitting on my couch in my parents' place by 2, and it was done. I mean, the suddenness of it was crazy. So that was tough, I think, for me, just because it's just kind of, you have no control over it. You didn't get to go out swinging in a game. So yeah, it was definitely tough to swallow that. But at the same time, it was out of our hands, and just nothing you can do.
Sure. And I always felt bad for you guys, but like I said, something I will always remember is that senior day and the video they showed and the words you had. I thought they were powerful and exemplify, I guarantee, what Painter would want in any person that comes to Purdue, whether through a transfer or recruitment. So and then you finish it up, and I did want to say congratulations to you. You graduated and everything else. So you finished strong in that regard academically, and so I always want to give my viewers a chance to understand, especially I'd love to bring you back on eventually, and not play the lifetime story stuff, but I do want my viewers to understand who they're talking to and who they're watching, and appreciate your time. And there's a lot of stuff going on with the Big Ten right now. There's been 4 games tonight. Purdue just won a big game against Nebraska. What are your thoughts with these young Boilers now coming into their own? They got 5 freshmen, no seniors, fighting in what they say is statistically maybe one of the best Big Ten, if not any conference in NCAA history. What have been your impressions of this team so far?
Yeah, I think they're super fun. I think they're going to be really dangerous. I mean, it's one thing when you've got a team like this and you've got 4 seniors and you've got 3 juniors or whatever. When you've got this many freshmen playing a role and playing important roles and doing really well in those roles, you've got a chance to be really, really good. I think you look at guys like Brandon and Mason who got that year to acclimate to college basketball. Not that they couldn't have helped us last year, because they could have 100%. But now you get 4 even better years. And I just think it's going to be so much fun to watch them the rest of this year. And then the next couple of years, I think, are going to be incredible for Boilermaker basketball.
Yeah, I completely agree. What have been your thoughts with Travion? You watched him kind of, come to the team. He had to lose a bunch of weight when he first got here, and he's taking each step as it's gone. What's it been like to watch Travion become the player he's been this year? And, obviously he's always had that touch, but now he's like the total package.
Sure. Yeah. And it's one of those things where we always saw it. I mean, you see flashes, you see stuff in practice, he's had the talent. It's not, for him, we always believed in him. We always felt like he was going to be a really good player. And it's great to watch him finally evolve with all the freedom he has. I think that's so big for him to actually have the confidence to go out every night and know that, he can really dominate. And he has been. I mean, it's you can't question the fact that when he goes out there, it's his world, when he gets on the block.
Can you describe the way he has such amazing touch around the rim? Like, I've never seen a big man with hands and just I just never seen a big man move like he does, or not too many at least.
Yeah. I mean, he's worked incredibly hard to get to where he is. He did come in and he was definitely much bigger, and to see him now and how quick he is and how much better he moves is crazy. It's really a tribute to how hard he works and how much he's put into the game. So definitely enjoy that, while you got it, Boilermaker fans.
Yeah. And, next year he's a senior, obviously. So there's plenty more for more Travion memories to come. A guy that's, really making his mark this year is Zach Edey. This guy, obviously has the size. But, what else have you seen from him as a freshman who just started playing basketball 4 years ago? Came up from playing hockey. What have been your impressions of Zach Edey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super impressed with him. I mean, look at it this way, right? There's a lot of guys who are big, There's not a lot of guys who can come in right away and understand what, especially at Purdue, because we run some complicated stuff, who can come in and really grasp defensively, what Coach Painter and what Coach Lutz and Coach Shrewsbury want us to do. So that's a testament to him and the rest of the freshmen. But, Zach, I mean, he's so big and he knows he's so big. And when you've got a guy who knows he can just bury people, I mean, that's so dangerous, because in college basketball, having a guy like that is like, it's almost unfair. It really is. Like, what's another team going to do to stop him? You just got to hope he misses. That's it.
And another thing I enjoy watching with Travion and Edey is the cat and mouse game that these teams play on how to guard them. Different technique, face guarding, double teams coming from different directions, and then the responsibility. What I find interesting on the Boiler end of it is the responsibility of getting it into the big guy. Explain. Kind of what it takes. Like, is it strictly just a confidence thing? Or, I mean, is it about kind of knowing angles and things of that nature? Because, to me, I can tell, like, some people are just terrified to throw it in. You can almost see it. And then, like, once the light goes on, then all of a sudden these guys going in. What does it take to have that light switch for players to then know that they can get it in there? Is that a challenge for players?
I think for some it is. I think for some, especially like a lot of guards coming out of high school who might score a lot or do whatever, they're not really used to throwing the ball in all that much. And I'll tell you really quickly that when you get there that first summer, that changes, because you're either going to throw the ball in when he's open or you're not going to play. So, yeah, I mean, at Purdue, it's non-negotiable. And one of the ways we see it is it's almost like an outlet, right? So, like, if you're getting pressured or they're getting up on you or whatever, and you can just throw the ball in, you've got an instant opportunity, right? Because you've got guys cutting now, you've got movement, you've got, if the guy's got one-on-one, you've got a good option to score. So it's one of those things where
you back out too if you have to.
Right, exactly. So it creates a lot of offense when maybe you're stuck or maybe you don't have something, and it can really punish teams if they're not good post defenders.
Right. And, Ivy, obviously being a great post defender with all sides, changing so many shots as you see here. And then Ivy and Newman, as you've mentioned before, these guys, man, so dynamic. Freshmen with so much confidence, so excited. I laugh sometimes how excited they are to play the game and like get a shot and have an opportunity when their play is called up. What is it like to watch that evolution of these guys, and how much does it change the complexion of Matt Painter's offense when you're not just feeding Travion and now you have these options on the outside that can break down the dribble or draw another double team? I feel like Jaden has added this extra complexion because now they're not just double teaming Travion. You got to double team Jaden because of how fast he is. Where do you think these guys are going? Do you think they'll make it 4 years here at Purdue? And what kind of ceiling do you put on these guys?
Yeah, it's, when you've got this collection, and every coach in college basketball, they have to recruit, but they have to really build a team, right? And I think that's where Coach Painter does such an incredible job, is he actually, instead of just recruiting like the top whatever guys, he actually tries to build a cohesive unit of guys that work together. And that's pretty rare, I think, throughout college basketball. You look at Purdue, right? Like, what are you going to stop? Are you going to stop Trey when he's on the block? Or are you going to double him and leave one of a shooter wide open? I mean, it's worst of two evils. And so, to watch these guys, and they're only going to get better because as you get more comfortable in the Purdue system and as you learn all the plays and where you're supposed to be, you start playing so much freer. And you start getting so much more confidence. And I think you've seen that as the season's gone on. All the freshmen and the redshirt freshmen have really understood where they're supposed to be, so they don't have to think, right? And when you can stop thinking and just play, it's such an easier game. And so,
oil machine, all the cogs are turning in the right place. You know where the guy's going to be. You know how he's going to cut, and that cohesiveness, and then it's just unstoppable.
Exactly. It gives you so much more confidence to just play basketball instead of thinking about every detail. I think you're going to see, especially the rest of the year, next 2 years, it's going to be really, really fun.
Well, here's a video because I've been fortunate enough to be able to cover a few games here at Purdue this year. Chris and the social media staff at Purdue have been nice enough to grant me a few media credentials. So here's some video that will inspire confidence in all Boilers. Absolute a showstopper. I'm happy these guys can play this year, but man, every time something like that happens, you just can't help but think how rocking Mackey Arena would be at a moment like that. And you feel bad. I felt bad for you guys and your missed opportunity and a season cut short. And now these guys, they're getting a season, but to not have the experience of the 15,000 fans is equally as important to me. That's what you play for. That's why you guys work your whole lives to get to these moments. Now you're playing, it's like practice. To me, that's a little bit of a shame. But again, fortunate that there's a season at all. So I try not to complain too much because I know that there's bigger issues outside of sports and people are fighting that stuff every day with this pandemic we're in the middle of and hopefully out of soon. So, the final couple guys I wanted to talk about are the people you played with. We touched a little bit on Travion, but our buddy, your buddies, of course, Sash and Wheeler and of course Hunter and Isaiah. What are your thoughts with this junior class and how they're leading this group of a very young team, the youngest team in like all of college basketball? What's it been like watching them kind of grow into that role as leaders?
Yeah, it's cool, right? I think especially look at guys like Sasha and Eric and how they've been able to lead this team. I mean, this team hasn't really had to go on pause. They haven't had to really take any steps back. They've been able to, for the most part, keep everything moving. And along with that, look at the team over the past couple of years. You don't see off the court issues, right? You don't see guys getting suspended or whatever. And so I think that's a testament to the program's leadership. And I think it's a culture that the guys, keep up and will keep up, in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, they're really growing. Hunter is really turning it up a notch here this last month or so. And again, like I said, like you pointed out, just the leadership, there's a lot of freshmen on this team and it has been impressive to watch these guys, really get into it. And it's not easy. Like I said, 5 freshmen and they're not like freshmen not getting minutes. Most of the time freshmen don't get minutes. Wisconsin's got like 7 seniors, but these guys are playing serious minutes. And, obviously I'm buds with Sasha. I did hear a little story. I'm not going to say who, but, I was talking to Sasha once about, he has had 2 dunks in high school. This is one of them. Now somebody mentioned to me that maybe he dunked on you in practice. Is this a true story? Can you confirm this? Do you have a story behind this? Your thoughts on this accusation of being dunked on by Sasha?
All right. It was like my first week at Purdue. And this is what happened. So we were doing a transition drill and Sasha, I was in help. Sasha caught it on the right wing and I was like, great, he's going up for a layup. So I went up, there was no contact. I went up and I challenged it and he had like a rim grazer above me. I'll give it to him. He had it. I'm not happy about it because he brings it up all the time, but he did do it. I will admit
it wasn't clean.
See,
I will admit. I mean, he got me, but
See, he kind of dunks on that guy too, and that's what happened. That was his senior night at Crown Point when he was finishing up his great career at Crown Point, and he dunks on. I didn't count it because it was like I thought it was a rim grazer. I didn't have a good angle of it, and so it sounds like he got you. Very
sounds like it wasn't clean to me. I don't know. It sounds like it wasn't.
There's no video, so
no video. They don't film the practices. Like he can't go back and find this in the media room. Whatever. You went in there and deleted it, huh?
We'll see.
That was funny. I had to bring it up. He mentioned it to me because when we were talking about dunks, because I don't think he's going to be crazy enough to try one here in college, but he did tell me he got one in practice. So I thought I'd ask you.
Sure, Evan blocked his shot many times as he tried to come in the lane. Other practices that we're not even talking about. We're talking about one grazer. Are we serious right now?
Exactly.
I just he had to leave like the day after when he came to Purdue. He was probably not even there. His bag was probably still packed.
So what are your thoughts here with the rest of the Big Ten? You had Michigan and Ohio State putting on a knockdown, drag-out fight in front of the whole nation on Sunday. The Big Ten standings I had here, they've kind of changed here because we've had a few games played. Ohio State's up 3 on Michigan State with about 5 minutes left in the first half. What are your thoughts here with Purdue? Because, specifically Purdue, that's where we all got our eyes on here at Brags in the Stands. Do you think that they can get into those top 4 seeds and get a double bye in the Big Ten tournament? You got Ohio State and Iowa just ahead of them, and it seems like those are the 2 teams maybe they can catch.
I think they can. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, I think tomorrow is going to be really big for them. Happy Valley is a weird environment. Going up there to Penn State, it's just different. I mean, with no fans, it's a really empty arena. And I know they've been playing in empty arenas all year, but it's just odd, right? And every time you go on an away game, everything's a little bit different. Your routine's different, whatever. So if they can get tomorrow, I think it's going to be really big for them. But I think if they close out the season strong, I mean, they're projected to be a really good seed in the tournament. There's no reason they can't, get hot for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because if they can get in, it's kind of like playing with house money kind of mentality.
Right.
Because it gets scarier as you get older, just like high school. As you get closer to that senior year, the games get more important, and then expectation. You're seeing that with like Illinois this year. They have more expectation than they did last year. I thought last year Illinois could have been a sleeper team because, no one's expecting you. Then all of a sudden everyone picks you. That makes it 10 times harder as you enter the tournament. So I agree with you. I do think that they are capable of having a run in them. So, again, I appreciate all your time here. Didn't want to take up too much of your time, wanted to chop through all this stuff. And again, kind of introduce you to the viewers, maybe next year or something. We'd love to bring you back and talk more Boilers or whenever you're available. But I did want to say I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I over the last couple of years, I did develop an admiration for what you did at Purdue and the way you carried yourself. I respect people that carry themselves the way you do. Your parents did a good job. Those guys, your parents are good people too. Definitely tell them I said hello. And hopefully we'll see the Boilers make a run here. It'd be exciting to see.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks for the invite.
All right, nice to meet you, brother.
Can I ask you one favor before you go? We ask our special guests this, and it's just a kind of a thing. Like I played at the start of the show, Sasha kind of doing an intro for our show. We have different people that will do it. Like
I'm Bobby Riddell from Purdue Men's Basketball Radio, and you're listening to Brags in the Stand.
We kind of ask all our guests to give one, and then I'll play it on a future show, and that's
ID. He's asking
ideas that fall in the business. Exactly right, Johnny B. So if you wouldn't mind, and no pressure, Sasha took 2 takes, so this is your chance to one up him, for dunking on you. So all you have to say is, who you are. This is Evan Boudreau, whatever you want to say, however you want to phrase it, and you're listening to Brags in the Stands. You want me to give you a countdown?
Yeah, sure.
In 3, 2, 1.
This is Evan Boudreau, former Boilermaker basketball player, and you're listening to Brags in the Stands.
Boom! See that, Sasha? One take. One take.
That dunk never happened. I'm gonna say he did it on one take. That dunk never happened.
No, I should have played the whole version of it because he did. He messed up. Sasha didn't say it with like confidence. He's like, and I was like, and then I made him redo it. He's like getting mad. I was like, I have to, we've had, I've had plenty of Bears players come on different shows. And one time on an old network I was on, Bears Barroom, Akeem Hicks took 9 tries. It took him 9 times to get it, but I try to keep it short and sweet. Some people got longer names to their shows. But again, Evan, really appreciate all your time. And, hopefully everything's going well for you and you're hanging in there through all this craziness. 2020 is over, maybe a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to getting back to some semblance of normalcy. But we get March Madness this year. We get the college basketball tournament that we all know and love, and the Big Ten tournament, of course. So hopefully the Boilermakers have some good fortune. Go ahead, Johnny B.
I have a question before we go. It has nothing to do with college basketball. Are you going to make it to SoFi Stadium in LA next February? Should I plan to see you? We can have dinner at SoFi Stadium, Packers Chiefs, February of 2022.
I'm in. I know the Bears won't be there, so
I'm Chiefs. I'm Chiefs.
Right. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I'd love to.
I didn't understand I didn't understand the connection of SoFi. I'm like, why are you talking?
This is my question, Braggs. This is my question. I'm already booked. If you guys make it and you're there, we'll hook up. We'll go to dinner. We'll have a good time, and then we'll see who wins.
See, I don't even get to think about where the Super Bowl is next year because I'm a Bears fan, and we have absolutely no shot at that. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But again, appreciate all your time tonight, Evan. We'll catch up with you real soon.
All right, yeah, appreciate it, guys.
All right, that is Evan Boudreaux, formerly of the Purdue Boilermakers, and we appreciate all his time tonight here on Braggs in the Stands. And again, I want to give a shout out to my guys at ISC Purdue. They had a few pictures that I pulled from their Twitter sphere. Wanted to give them a shout out here on the show. They do a lot of good work, and they were sharing our show along here earlier, and we appreciate that. So wanted to share along some of their work. Make sure you follow them at ISC Purdue, Indiana sports coverage. They do a great job. So rocking and rolling along. But before we get into our next segment of top shots and everything else in between, I got to read my lines here as we always do at Braggs in the Stands. And I want to give a shout out to Jake. It took me until like 3/4 through the interview to change the background for when we have 3 people on, but I finally did it. And Jake gave a nice little nod and a little tip and advice because he was tuned in, and we appreciate you tuning in. Our guy Jake Hovanek, staple of Braggs in the Stands, going to be taking the off season.
Jake.
Yeah, we miss Jake, but
football season yet.
Exactly right. And we're going to get Jake back. He'll be popping in and out whenever he damn well pleases, but he's got a baby on the way. He's got a lot to do. He's got a tough job where he's got a lot of responsibility. So we're going to give him the break, and he can come on and off whenever he wants here at Braggs in the Stands. And we appreciate him sending a little advice our way to make this show a little better tonight. So that Evan Boudreaux interview was brought to you by Fanbags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with Fanbags
Cornhole.
You did it.
Yeah, I did it.
Yes. Johnny B did it. He brought the cornhole at the end. Same time, rocking and rolling. The march to madness continues, as it always does here on Braggs in the Stands, when we bring Johnny B into the fray.
Sleepers, Greg? I know you're Purdue and you got it, and we got Michigan that's looking good. I know you don't want to hear it in Illinois, even though they choked against Michigan State. They look pretty good today to get back on track. Do you have any other sleepers for that are going to be in the NCAA tournament? NCAA tournament. Do you have any sleepers that you think could go?
I'm dialed into the Big Ten, so I'm going to speak on what I know. And it's obvious that Michigan State is becoming that sleeper. By the time the tournament rolls around, I'm sure everyone will have them as their sleeper, which will then make them no longer a sleeper. But you just saw them beat Illinois. They're giving Ohio State a tough game, and maybe Ohio State comes away with the victory, maybe not. It's at Michigan State, so certainly a game Michigan State's going to be in till the end. It's a tight one here coming up on halftime, but this is what Tom Izzo does every year in March. And there are many years within this last 20 years where Tom Izzo has made it, I believe, to like 16 straight tournaments. The reason they do is even in years like this where they don't look as great, 12-9 on the season, 6-9 in the Big Ten overall, they always find a way. They always come together at some point, and you're seeing that already here, in Big Ten tournaments right around the corner. They have a chance to really get some big wins. Just got one in a top 5 win against Illinois. Have a chance to get another one tonight against Ohio State. So, maybe they won't be the sleepers that I'm saying they are right now, but right now they fall in that category of sleeper.
I have a team that I'm liking. It's just a team that I don't think anybody wants to play as they get into the tournament, and that's Alabama. 18-5, I believe, the overall record. And I just, I feel like they can play with anybody when they get hot, and I just feel like Alabama might be my sleeper team going into the tournament. I might have to put a couple of small dollars on them just for a run. I did make a bet on Michigan a while ago. Early in the season, I got some pretty goods on that. Not that I am a huge Michigan fan, but I like the way they play. Obviously, I like the way that Purdue plays. I watched Illinois a couple times, and sometimes they look really, really good, and they feel like they can blow anybody out at the gym. And then, obviously, the letdown against Michigan State, against a well-coached team, like you said, always hot down the stretch. So Alabama's probably that team for me.
Well, just so you're aware, Gray for AJ is actually Adam Gray, formerly our neighbor of the mean streets of Aspen Trail. Right. So he's in our chat right now harassing us with his Go Blue. Earlier we had the Illinois guy, Alan Brachter, big Illinois fan, and now we've got, Adam coming in with his Go Blue. And yes, Michigan just won a huge game against Iowa, which actually helped Purdue. So I was a Michigan fan today, and maybe later in the tournament, maybe Purdue will end up in the same region as Michigan, and maybe they meet in the Sweet 16.
Holy cow. Wow.
And you know what? Really exciting stuff. When you talk about Brags in the stands, fans in the stands, they have announced, and I wasn't able to pull the pictures or the tweets about them, but they're allowing 25% capacity for fans in the NCAA tournament. Now, the first few rounds aren't just at Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. They're going to spread them out to Assembly Hall, Mackey Arena, actually, home of the Purdue Boilermakers, and Hinkey Fieldhouse. So you've got some different places where they're going to change it. Like I saw Mackey Arena, they haven't had fans in the stands all year, but for the first time this year, they're going to have 13% fans for the tournament.
Who gets those tickets?
It's going to be really interesting to see how that unfolds. Now, obviously, family and all that's but there is going to be a segment of fans that are allowed into these games. 13% at Mackey, and then maybe up to 25% when they get to the bigger amenities at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. So that's really exciting stuff for me. Obviously, I've been lucky enough to, get credentialed to a few games and able to see them take down Michigan State and Northwestern here recently. And that was a lot of fun to kind of watch Sasha come back, obviously, from COVID and bounce back. And Purdue's been rolling. They haven't really skipped a beat at all, even through all that stuff. And so it'll be cool to, have fans back in the stands. I don't think Purdue is going to get a home game, like an actual
right.
Like there's no way they're going to schedule them at home. So, but I just think these other places, Assembly Hall is like home away from home for these guys. I don't want to jinx it because I know the IU game's coming up next week, but Sasha's undefeated against IU so far in his career.
Blake hear you say that.
And they beat, I asked him when he came on if he was going to continue this undefeated streak, and he seems confident about it, and I don't blame him. They've had some good success at Assembly Hall, and now their final home game of the season, scheduled home game, is against Indiana next Saturday, and hopefully they can take them down again. But if they end up playing at Assembly Hall in the tournament, they've had good fortune there. They've had a familiarity there. So I'm not calling it a home game. No disrespect to IU. I did see some Purdue people saying that has become their home. But they certainly are comfortable there. So it'll be interesting to watch that unfold. And like I said, exciting as both of us, people that enjoy going to games. You went to the Super Bowl here a few weeks ago, and so we're excited. I'm excited for it. I'll definitely be in the stands one way or another, but certainly ups the chances when fans are allowed.
I think we can agree on one thing, that Big Ten basketball, whether you're Adam saying go blue or you're Allen or Chubbs with University of Illinois or yourself with Purdue or Jake, who's
IU alum.
He's an IU, and obviously they're not as hot as some of these other teams in the Big Ten. But I mean, Big Ten basketball right now is a good product, and it's nationwide. People are noticing, people are watching, and it should be interesting going into the Big Ten tournament as these standings kind of unfold, and then obviously getting through that and then to the NCAA.
Yep, it's going to be interesting, and like I said, the Big Ten is just knockdown, drag out, and like I said, I'm not really sure where it's going to fall for Purdue. 17-7 now on the season. I'm trying to, for the Big Ten standings, they're 11-6 now, Iowa, and Purdue is 10-6. So if Purdue wins tomorrow against Penn State, I'm not sure, because Purdue lost to Iowa in their head-to-head. So Iowa may still hold the tiebreaker. I'm not sure how tiebreakers work in that scenario. Now, Ohio State, Purdue has beaten twice. So if Ohio State manages to lose tonight, they're at 12-5. If they fell to 12-6, Purdue is 10-6. That's the same in the loss column. So things are going to get really interesting here. Really excited to see how that shakes out. But we're gonna find out, in just a short while. Like I said, next Saturday is the last scheduled home game. Kind of a bizarre season because you got 3 home games left for Purdue. And then a team like Michigan, who had to sit out for 2 weeks, is got like 10 games left. So, it's going to be interesting to see how all that shakes out. But we've had a lot of other interesting stuff coming across the wire tonight.
Oh, we have.
Yeah. We had this tweet coming across that set Bears Twitter aflame. Adam Schefter tweeted, Russell Wilson has told the Seattle Seahawks he wants to play in Seattle, but if a trade were considered, the only teams he would go to are the Cowboys, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Chicago Bears. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Russell Wilson randomly has put out into the atmosphere that the Bears are one of 4 teams that he'd be willing to go to away from the Seattle Seahawks. To me, we talked a lot about Deshaun Watson here on this show. I'm willing to give up just as much, basically, in the same essence. Obviously, Watson is 26.
He's older.
Russell Wilson is 33. I am still willing to give up a king's ransom to have Russell Wilson in a Bears uniform. Your thoughts, Johnny B?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard some different takes on why he would say, Chicago for that. But I'll tell you one thing, and I've mentioned this before, I believe on this show and some of my other things I talk to people about sports is if you come to Chicago, I mean, it's a Bears town. Chicago's a Bears town. I don't care what anybody says. And they're just starving for that franchise quarterback. And, people talk about Sid Luckman and, that's fine. And I've heard stories about him and he was a great quarterback. But after that, I mean, who really do you have that you could talk about? I mean, yeah, Jim McMahon was a personality. He happened to play with, one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the history of the NFL. So I think a lure for a lot of quarterbacks and saying they would come to Chicago is obviously they're going to be immediately, if they're a franchise quarterback, the best quarterback in the history of the franchise, and the city is going to take them, hold of them and hold them up and is going to back them, ride or die and hopefully win a championship. So I could see that, he's late in his career knowing he's not happy with his situation in Seattle and the market and everything as far as the endorsements and things like that. I mean, Chicago's is a football town and a Bears town, so I could definitely see that. I could.
Certainly, I had my mic muted. Certainly interesting. A picture like this gets me fired up as a Bears fan. I love Russell Wilson. He was in the Big Ten at one point, played at Wisconsin and North Carolina, NC State, and anybody that saw him back then in college, he was a slinger back then, comes right into the NFL, made a huge impact in the preseason, showed some spark, and that's how he won the job over Matt Flynn right away to take over the job. And I just think, the world of Russell Wilson. And even at 33, you consider a guy like Tom Brady, who just won at what age is he? 43?
Yeah, I heard that Russell Wilson, I saw an interview with him recently. I think it was actually in last year's offseason, and he says that he spends over close to $1 million a year in preserving his body and his mental health and everything that goes along with being a world-class athlete and at the obviously the toughest position arguably in all of sports. So he spends that kind of money. So if he's doing that, obviously Brady's doing similar things. I mean, there is no reason why he can't play until he's 40, 42 as well at a high level.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm not worried about it, because I know I've got him for the next 5 years minimum, so, to me, 3 first-round picks don't mean nothing to me if I've got Russell Wilson for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
it doesn't. I know I could use those to better my team, but now I've got the quarterback position figured out, and if you're giving up 3 first-round picks, well, one of those picks would have been quarterback. So really, you're only giving up 2 in a quarterback swap. If you're thinking in that regard, if it's only 3 first-round pick, maybe you have to give up more. I'm not sure. But then the other half of it is, well, what if you don't hit on that quarterback? We've been down this road. Well, then you have to take another 2 years later. So those first-round picks could all be quarterbacks at the end of the day if you're not knowing what you're doing. Another thing that I find interesting, because this is the same thing when you talk about Deshaun Watson. When is he going to put out his list of teams? Because when you have a no trade clause, well, you can say who you want to go to. So, even though maybe Miami and the Jets and all these teams have, a better, trade value to offer to the Texans or the Seattle Seahawks. Well, it's about where these players want to go. And Russell Wilson doesn't have the Jets or the Dolphins or the Panthers listed on here, teams that might have better draft equity. What he does have listed is the Cowboys, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Bears, who have established defenses, I guess, is probably what he's looking at. Major markets is probably another thing. You could play in Las Vegas. You could play for the Saints in New Orleans and be a king down there. Dallas Cowboys, America's team. And then also, of course, your Chicago Bears in one of the biggest markets. Another thing that stands out to me about this tweet is, well, if you scratch out the Saints, because there is nobody that would come off their books if the Saints went there. If he went to the Saints, you'd have Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. That's who they had last year. So maybe if he doesn't go to the Saints, hold your breath on that. But if the Cowboys or Raiders were to acquire Russell Wilson, well, now all of a sudden Derek Carr becomes available.
Right.
Now all of a sudden Dak Prescott becomes available. So if I'm a Bears fan, not only am I begging he comes on the market to come play in Chicago and put on a Bears jersey, I'm also begging for it, because if he doesn't go to the Saints, now all of a sudden we could have a quarterback waterfall game and the Bears could have somebody fall into their lap. That's what the Bears need.
It's a domino effect.
Right. Get lucky in that regard, because right now they're holding their hands in empty pockets. They don't have anywhere to go. And I'm glad they didn't pull the trigger on Carson Wentz. I'm glad they didn't pull the trigger on Matt Stafford, and they did sniff around those things. So it makes me nervous, and I want them to just hold out. So something like this matriculates. And if it doesn't, hold serve. Wait for that. Johnny?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
JohnnyB.
Yeah, I'm here.
My internet was running a little slowly. I had a little internet issues, so I apologize if there was a little lag there. So I was just trying to make sure it caught up before I started babbling about.
Let me tell you my conspiracy theory of this quarterback situation in the NFL.
Okay.
I'll tell you why that Chicago is a real possibility for many of these quarterbacks that you're saying.
Go on.
Right now, you have a situation where you have a lot of youthful quarterbacks that are putting on a show with the man behind me, Patrick Mahomes, number one. You have Josh Allen, who's in Buffalo. A lot of people really like Lamar Jackson. He's in Baltimore. You have a guy, Herbert, in San Diego. I always call him the San Diego Chargers. Sorry, Chargers fans, in LA, that is, looking like a pure stud. Baker Mayfield, a lot of people can give or take him. So you have a situation here where you are stacked with quarterbacks in the AFC. You got Tom Brady with the Bucs now. He's got maybe a year or two left for sure. Who knows? you got Aaron Rodgers, who's getting older. So Russell Wilson is one of those top-tier guys who's right now in the NFC. I have a really conspiracy theory going in my mind that the NFL does not want all these quarterbacks in the AFC, and that Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, and Russell Wilson, 2 of those 3 minimum, will remain in the NFC to keep the balance of power.
Everybody thinks I'm crazy when I talk about Watson. Hey, what if he just said only the Bears? That's the only place I want to go to. Well, that was one of my huge reasons. All of the young talent is in the AFC, and Patrick Mahomes owns all of it. He owns all the real estate in the AFC.
Josh Allen was going to smoke him in the AFC Championship. He was ready to take the torch. Lamar Jackson, all these times, he smoked every one of those guys every time they played him. They're not ready to take the torch from Patrick Mahomes. They need the NFC.
Patrick might have had to lay the sword down to Tom Brady one more time here. He bought all the AFC real estate from Tom as he left the AFC last year. And I don't see, and so I agree. If you're a young quarterback trying to make your mark, A, you're trying to find a major market, and B, you're trying to be in the NFC. Correct. So now you can pull the Tom Brady and have the easy ride. Look at Tom Brady. He's still giving us perfect examples. He went to the NFC and in 1 year made it to the Super Bowl. That's 1, because Tom Brady is great. Correct. And that's 2, because it's primed. Even though he did have a tough road, he beat some great quarterbacks, don't get me wrong, but these guys are getting older. They're beatable. They proved that.
And let's not forget, too, as far as the Brady situation and Gronk and all those other guys that were already there, with Mike Evans and, Brait and Godwin and all those guys, there was no preseason like the regular. There was, you're getting your practice time, but it wasn't the same with COVID. So that's why you saw them getting better as the season went on. They started to get their timing. They started to get their rhythm, but basically when they're a month or 6 games into the season, that was probably like the start of a season when you have a new team, a new quarterback, new system. So it made sense. Obviously Matt Ryan can still sling it, but he's getting older. You have Drew Brees, who obviously arm does not even look close to what it did. He was in the right division at the right time. And even though he didn't win that division, when he went into New Orleans in that first game, he won the game that counted. So, that's the bottom line.
You got guys like Cordero Patterson, plays for the Bears. He posted this picture as soon as the news started dropping. You had other players reaching out. So everybody wants to see the movement. Everybody, wants to, everybody wants to get the Bears a quarterback. Even me, we had our days, and we tried it out with Mitch. It ran its course. I know there's still some fans. I had one guy trying to make a bet with me that Mitch Trubisky's going to come back. And I was like, there's just no reason to bet. You've lost. I'm a huge fan of Mitch's, but he's not coming back to the Bears. I will root for him wherever he goes, but that's not going to stop me from looking around to how we can get this team to the next level. You have to let go of that. Mitch is not coming back here. And I'm not looking for the Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, Gardner Minshew solution. Those guys are not solutions. Then I agree with the guy that says just bring Mitch back. That makes as much sense as bringing those dudes in. What makes sense is bringing this in. That's what makes sense.
You got to believe that those other guys, which in my opinion are just Band-Aids pretty much, you got to hope that they can develop them, the coaching staff, which a lot of people are not confident that they can. And obviously everyone knows my feelings on the Wentz situation. I've been saying it the entire season during Brags in the Stands during the football season that I felt like he was not an elite quarterback, especially this year. It started early in the year. And obviously he had some injury issues as well with the offensive line. But I don't know. I just feel like he just doesn't have that it factor. He got hot for that one season before he got hurt. It was a great season. A lot of great players or good players have one really excellent season and then never to be seen from again at that level. So he just, for me, didn't have that it factor. I was happy that the Bears didn't get him. I do have some friends that are Colts fans, and I asked them about it recently, and they're just kind of like this, like they don't even know what to say,
Right. So. No, I agree. I'm thrilled they waited it out on those things, and let's see how it plays out. I'm not trying to I'm just not trying to have another, retread. That's the word I was looking for. Retread. I'm not trying to have another retread. No, thank you.
Yeah, guys like Deshaun and Russell Wilson, they're not retreads. They got plenty of tread right now.
Yeah.
They're not retreads. They're just unhappy with things that are happening, whether it be getting lied to, whether, obviously you get two truths. So it's probably somewhere in the middle. But I mean, I know for one, that Kansas City, talks to Patrick all the time about things that they want to do for the franchise, the organization, things to make it better, things to make the team better, between the general manager, Brett Veach, Andy Reid, the head coach, and Patrick himself. And there's some cool things that are out there with how they've communicated so well since Patrick took over as a starter, that a lot of times they even know what each other's thinking on an idea or a player or a situation before they even say it. So if you can have that kind of communication for one team, why can't it be like that for another team? Include your franchise quarterback who's a superstar. Russell Wilson already won a Super Bowl, should have won a second Super Bowl, maybe a coaching gaffe there. And obviously Deshaun, who led the NFL in passing yards this year. Why can't it be like that for all the quarterbacks who are elite players?
I agree. And that'll be an interesting question for a future special guest we're going to have on this show. Been trying to reach through some different connections, and we're looking forward to maybe next month, the radio side of things on the Chiefs end.
Yeah.
The Bears have Jeff Joniak and Devin Hester. You are ridiculous. Well, the Chiefs, they have Mitch Holthus, who is known for touchdown Kansas City. So we've been trying to work some different dials to bring him on here at Brags in the Stands, and we made the connection, and it sounds like sometime in March, maybe midway through March, bring on Mitch, and we can ask him those things. He's been right there to watch the growth of the Chiefs organization, and obviously you have too, being a lifelong season ticket holder, going to all the practices and everything else that you're able to do as a fan. And so it'd be cool to get his insight, how the Chiefs were able to build that up. And as that pertains to the Bears, obviously he's going to have some familiarity with Matt Nagy.
Correct.
And so it'll be interesting, and maybe we'll have quarterback clarity by then. Maybe Russell Wilson will be a Bear by then.
Mitch is a great guy too, and obviously he's the voice of the Chiefs. He has a TV show too where they do a lot of fun things. Obviously, it had to change a little bit this year with the COVID, but I got a chance to meet him one time just by accident. Ended up talking to him for a while, and I'm sure we'll discuss that when he comes on the show. He even tweeted at me a couple times when we won the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 54. And then I started doing my crazy duck races, and I used some of his lines in my races in the beginning because I didn't know how long I was going to go. And then he retweeted some of it and made some comments. So, I have had some interaction with Mitch. He's a great guy. He does some college basketball as well, and very passionate. Just a very passionate sports person, and very passionate for the Chiefs and this run that we've been on. Obviously, he's seen the bad side of it, the losing side. Obviously he was there for our 2-14 season, all the way through getting, Eric Fisher with that first round draft pick, and ironically, that might've been one of the reasons we lost the Super Bowls, because we lost Eric Fisher in the AFC Championship before this last Super Bowl. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope it works out. And I think he'll have a lot of good things to say that will relate just to sports in general. Get a little insight on the relationship between Coach GM, as we talked about, and then his connection to Nagy and what maybe the Bears can do.
Yep. Eric Fisher, former high school, nemesis of our former neighbor, Adam Gray. They played against each other in high school a few times. And and Mitch Holthus, as you mentioned, not only has the Chiefs prowess and everything behind him there and that knowledge, but he also calls college basketball games. So, we're going to try to bring him in the thick of March Madness, talk a little Chiefs, give JohnnyB the floor here, let him control the reins of an interview, take this car out for a spin and maybe ask him some college basketball questions on the side. So we look forward to that here on an upcoming episode of Brags in the Stands. Another thing that came across Twitter, while I was working, we're back to work this week. We've gone from the 0-degree temperatures and the 10 feet of snow. The snow's starting to melt and we're getting 40-degree days. So that means I'm back to work. and out of the house, not potty training and laying the bricks. I can't tell you I'm too upset about that, but also trying to get Addison locked in on this potty training thing. But, while I was working, this tweet came across the Cubs timeline, and there was a picture or a video of Andrew Bellison. I didn't get to watch the video because I'm at work, so I can't watch the video, but I can read things every once in a while. Depending on what's going on, I might take a peek at my phone. And it said, reply with your first and last name, position, and jersey number, and you could hear your name announced by the Chicago Cubs PA. So I sent a tweet along, and I had a picture of Addison and I at Wrigley, and I instead of asking for my name and number, I said, playing center field, number 31, Addison Grace. And I explained 31 because that's her birthday, May 31st. And, center field because she's the center of attention like her dad. And, so what happened was, and Andrew Bellison, who's the PA announcer for the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field, just a great sound and something I miss about going to games and hearing those kind of sounds. So this was a really cool moment. He responded to a lot of people, and I was lucky enough to be one of those people he responded to and gave Addison Grace's name echoing across the Wrigley Field Cathedral. So here it is on Top Shots. This is a cool moment.
Center fielder number 31, Addison Grace Braggs.
How about that? Short and sweet, but pretty cool. I showed Addison, but she didn't understand the significance behind it. But I've never had my name called on those speakers and echoing amongst the Wrigley Field crowd. But I thought it'd be cool. A cool little gesture and a video we'll have forever. So I'm looking forward to, as she gets older, I'll show it to her, and then when she understands how cool that is.
That would be really cool. You go to your first game that she remembers, and you got the cotton candy and you get the ball. They flip it over to third base, or Cubs sit on the third base dugout, right? Cubs sit on third base. So they flip it over to third base dugout, and then you're going to, hey, you don't remember this. And then you show the video, and then she's like, holy cow, like that was pretty cool. And that'll be something that you could definitely share down the road. I think it'll be cool.
Yeah, shout out to Andrew Bellison of the PA announcer for the Cubs, and man, he's got the golden pipes, huh? He really, like I said, there's something about Wrigley when you walk in, you hear the organ, you smell the onions, cooking on the grill, getting ready for your Polish sausage, your onions and mustard only, of course, and then that sound, that is what Wrigley is all about.
Center fielder number 31, Addison Grace Braggs.
And what I love about it is that echo that you hear. You hear that same echo even when it's full. Like it just has that kind of feel to it. It like gets in your soul. So, that was a cool gesture by the Cubs, and makes me miss going to Wrigley. I look forward to being there this year. So they better get it figured out because, like I said, in Indiana, we're doing the 25% capacity for these indoor basketball games. So I'm trying to be optimistic and hey, this is outdoor. This is an opportunity, while we're still getting the vaccinations, spread out to everybody and everybody can get them and accessible to them. These are outdoor events now that we're getting out of winter, where it's safer, and I'm no medical expert or anything like that. My wife's a nurse, obviously, but I am certainly no medical expert. But I also know that, at 25 or 13% capacity of indoor stadiums, well, we're talking about outdoor stadiums, open air. Right. You were at the Super Bowl, and what was the official percentage capacity of the Super Bowl?
Well, I can tell you I've been to stadiums during this pandemic in 2 different states. Now, obviously, I was at Arrowhead several times, including all of the playoff games and several other games. And they had one of the few teams that had fans the entire time. I think Jacksonville, Miami, and Kansas City were the 3 teams that had fans the entire season. Some other teams started in October. I know Texas had them as well. And basically, I tell you this, I felt completely safe in the outdoor stadium. You follow the guidelines that they put, that the experts, whether it be local experts, health experts, CDC, whatever, you follow the rules. You use common sense, which a lot of people, lack these days, and it's totally safe. I felt totally safe in Kansas City. It was a 25% capacity, I believe, of near 80,000, like 78,000. And then in Tampa, for the Super Bowl. It was 22,500, I believe. 7,500 of those were vaccinated healthcare workers. So it was about 15,000 non-vaccinated people. And I felt totally safe, whether it was at the pre-party, which everybody's spaced out. It's outside. You know, you do what they tell you. You follow the health and safety, guidelines, and then you have a good time using common sense. And it's not exactly the same, but it's definitely fun. It's needed for sports fans and just as a community in general. And we do what we have to until we get back to reality, whenever that is.
Right. And like you said, the key is common sense. But as Jonathan Hood likes to say on Cap and Company all the time, common sense is not common, unfortunately.
I like to say common sense needs a comeback. That's what I like to say.
Common sense does need a comeback. So hopefully we can start using it. Maybe get this guy some common sense. I don't know. Don't be doing this. When you come back to the games, don't be doing this, all right? It's frowned upon.
His mask is not over his nose. I'm just saying.
Yeah, wear your mask properly. Don't stick your tongue out. Yeah. Don't wear a thong suit. And don't run on the field. These are the rules of Brags in the stands, okay? Because we're trying to get back to the games. We're tired of looking at empty stadiums, tired of going to Mackey and seeing cardboard cutouts. I need this place full. Like Evan Boudreau, our guest who was on earlier said, 15,000 at Mackey. There's no better feeling. So let's get this feeling back, people. Yeah. Jeez Louise, need it. We need it. So another feeling I got, I'm excited about this weekend, some cool opportunities. I've been doing some work for Region Sports Network here in the region, of course, and they do a lot of high school coverage, all across, the region, and basketball, baseball, football, you name it, all sports, wrestling just got done. Someone at Crown Point is one of the top wrestlers in the country, so they do it. They cover it all, but they also, are big into basketball season, and sectionals is coming up for boys, and the girls are actually in the state championship. And what's cool about this, Region Sports Network was gracious enough to offer me the opportunity to call the 4A state championship for girls basketball. And there's a picture of the Crown Point Lady Bulldogs winning semi-state last week in LaPorte. And I am going to be lucky enough here on Saturday night at 7 p.m. I'm going to be down at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, home of the Indiana Pacers, for the 4A championship. And I'm going to be alongside Michael Bradner of Region Sports Network, and he's going to be doing the play-by-play. I'm going to be doing the color analyst. So really, really rare, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I can't thank Nathan Laird and, Chris Ramirez from Region Sports Network enough for. I mean, there's so many great games here in the region, but to be able to call a state championship of the high school in the town that I grew up in, I graduated from Crown Point in 2004. And, Crown Point hasn't been to a state championship since 1997, haven't won one since 1985, and both of those were girls basketball. And so this is history. How many times can someone say they called a state championship game, let alone one of the high school they attended and went to and had so many memories at? So I am really excited about it, really humbled by it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
This is the first I have heard of this, and I am very happy for you and excited. And let's hope that they can seal the deal, as I like to say.
Yes, they have a very good team. They got two girls that are very, very good at their craft. Jessica Carruthers. Yeah, you got to see this girl play. The picture's a little. I'm like squinting here. The computer's a little bit away from me, but I believe she's on the bottom right. Man, these guys, it's just a lot of fun. Crown Point Lady Bulldogs. Last year, talk about teams that have had their season cut short. Obviously everyone had their seasons cut short in high school. So look at now they're they've been on a mission here the last few years. They've had a very good team. And now here they are in the state championship. So how about that? Really exciting stuff. So I'm going to be there. Brags in the stands,
color call. Let's go.
Doing the color call for Region Sports Network. Cannot thank those guys enough. I did some coverage for them a couple years ago, and I've stayed in contact with these guys. They're really good people, do a lot of really good work. And in a year in a pandemic where they weren't allowing fans in most high school gyms, that their service is more important than ever, for parents and family members to be able to see these kids play. And they do a great job of that. So I just do my little part and have fun with it, and try not to mess it up. Last Saturday I did the play-by-play. Talk about cool opportunities. Last Saturday I was able to do the color analyst alongside Michael Brandner for Hammond High versus Chesterton High School here in the region. And Hammond High is number 1 in the state in 3A. Then it's the first time they've been number 1 in the state in 3A since 1976. So I'm calling this game. Right. Hammond's got all this history, and if that wasn't cool enough to call a number 1 team in the state in 3A, obviously there's 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, but on top of that, I'm calling it at Hammond High, and it's the final game in Hammond High School history. They are going to be combining high schools, right, and they just built a brand new high school right next door to it. So this storied gym and this old building I'm walking into for the first. I've never been to Hammond High. I've seen Hammond High play,
but I know the building, man.
Yeah. So really cool stuff. Then I'm calling that game last Saturday, but I had a few miscues. I need a bounce back performance tomorrow night. I'm actually calling Hammond High versus Valpo, which I'm excited to do because I was able to go a few weeks ago for Crown Point boys basketball. And this was my first gig I've ever done. And the play-by-play guy his name was Lucas, and he did a great job. And we were doing Crown Point boys versus Valpo boys. And I felt like I did a good job. But then my second showing, I was all over the place. Last week I had the dental work done on Friday, and it was like comatose, with the pills and the drink they give you to get through the dental procedure. So I felt out of sorts on Saturday. Nathan said I did okay, but I kept calling Daryl Reed, who's one of the top players on Hammond High, Jordan Reed, our freaking fantasy football obsession. And I could not get the name Jordan Reed out of my head. And it came out my mouth like 4 times. And I was so embarrassed. And I hate that because, I want to, shine a light on these kids. This guy, Daryl Reed, is balling out, and I'm getting his freaking name right. It's just embarrassing. And I owe him an apology. And at the end of the day, I was like telling Michael Bradner, the play-by-play guy, like, I'm going to donate $5 for every time I said Jordan Reed on the telecast to some kind of charity to make right by this, because it wasn't good. So I need a bounce back performance, because tomorrow night, before the state championship on Saturday night, I'm going to do another boys basketball game, Valpo versus Hammond High. So I've seen both teams, have familiarity now in person, seeing these guys. And so it'll be cool to do that Friday night, and then Saturday night for Region Sports Network. A lot of action going on.
Warm up really well tomorrow, and then be at your best mental in the zone for the girls championship. Crown Point, your former school, for your best performance yet.
Yes, I like that. Those are good words. And hopefully I get a moment like this. And, maybe I should have done since we're talking about the call, and I don't have the audio because I didn't load it up, and I wish I would have now that we're talking about it. But man, this was a high school shot in Illinois high school basketball. This guy had 32 points and then sunk this shot for the game-winning shot in overtime for 35 on the night. I forget his name. I just screwing up Daryl Reed's, and then I don't have this kid's name for Notre Dame. They took down
right.
took down Fenwick. I could Google it.
You got Daryl Reed right just now. Congratulations.
I did it. But you're hoping for a moment like this in one of these next 2 games, and the call was, a lot of people were critical of the call. Ronnie Fields, who's a former player, kept saying he got 35 because he called it. And people were like, okay. Like, focus on the shot. And it was an unbelievable shot.
How would you call it? Like, what would you?
That's a good question. Since we don't have the sound of their call, I guess because I'm not the play-by-play guy, so this is a little awkward. But if I was doing the play-by-play, rebound, takes it half court heave. He's got it. Unbelievable. Buries it at the buzzer in overtime.
I would have said
Notre Dame takes down Fenwick. 35 points. Unbelievable performance. See that? How you like that?
What was the final score? Quick.
I didn't see it.
Oh, 71
to 68.
Oh, I would have said Bon Jovi from center court, living on a prayer, answered 71-68. It's over.
Wait, let's run this back. We'll start it from the beginning because I did mine. Now you do yours. All right.
Shot up. Brick City. The rebound. 2 dribbles. He heaves. Bon Jovi living on a prayer. Answered 71-68. It's over. It's all over. He's getting mobbed by his teammates. On to the next round. Victory is ours. Seal the deal. Good night.
And you can tell you're a White Sox fan this in there because I kind of heard the radio call when the White Sox won it, where he's like, out, and the White Sox winner of the World Series championship. We kind of had that same kind of tone to it.
That was 2005, man. I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, but what happens for these next couple games that I'm calling. But I'm hoping for a moment like that.
Get it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I shared this earlier on our interview with Evan Boudreau, but this was, there's nothing better than high school basketball, and this was on senior night, Sasha throwing it down for the Crown Point crowd. And there were so many great moments, as you see in our intro video, have a few moments, Nick Anderson in game-winning 3 for Lake Central. And, I have seen so many, David Bell hit a game-winning shot over Romeo Langford. David Bell plays wide receiver for the Purdue Boilermakers now, and he hit a game-winning shot at semi-state that I was lucky enough to attend. And so many great moments, obviously all the moments I've seen at Crown Point.
Right.
And, it's just going to be fun to see if I can add to that list of all these memories I had. There's nothing better than high school basketball in the state of Indiana and in the region too. I've grown up in the region. I've watched many high school games. It started back in my young days when my mom would take me to Maryville High School, and I'd watch guys like TJ Lux and Jamal Davis and Dante Price. And I can name them all like they were the 90s Bulls, but that's that's the passion that we live for here in the state of Indiana. We love our basketball, and we're excited for high school basketball wrapping up and college basketball. We got a lot to cover. I'm excited for it, and hopefully we get some good fortune for Purdue on the college side of things. But and then also professionally, I've really been slacking with my Bulls, but they're hot right now, Johnny B. I don't know how much you've been able to tune in. I know you have a busy schedule too, but I tuned in last night, and this was a big win in overtime. Zach LaVine hit a big shot in overtime. He missed the game winner at the buzzer, and it almost went down. It was like halfway down, but then they responded in overtime and pulled out the victory. It was a tough win, a high-scoring game, obviously. But what are your thoughts here on these Baby Bulls? They've climbed all the way to the 6th seed here in the Eastern Conference.
I have been watching them a little bit, and I have been putting some wagers down. I've been dabbling in some different types of NBA bets, just trying to get more experience. NFL is obviously my thing as far as the gambling. I have been betting quite a bit on college basketball with some pretty good results. I've been betting on a lot of favorites, putting 2 of those together on some 2-team parlays and doing pretty well. But I have been watching quite a bit of the NBA. I do have the JohnnyB side sportsbook set up in my living room, so I do have the 3 TVs. So I have sports on, and a lot of times I have, one of the games, whether it be the Bulls or one of the West Coast games. But I have been watching. They're definitely fun to watch. Obviously, the coaching makes a world of difference so far. They have bumped up to the 6th seed. I know they just announced the second half of the schedule recently. They definitely don't have an easy schedule by any means in the second half, but hey, that's why you play the games. That's how you got experience. You got an all-star in Zach LaVine. I've seen some interviews with him recently. He seems like he comes from a great family. He seems like he's got a great head on his shoulders. Yep. And now that I've learned a little bit more about him this season, I am pulling for him. I'm pulling for the Bulls.
Yep, and first all-star appearance for Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Well deserved too. He's balling out, and he's proven me wrong. I'd almost still say trade him, because I'm like, still at the skeptical point. I know there's a lot of Bulls fans that are already all in because they are getting a little taste of a competent team, from what we've seen here these last few years in the doldrums where they haven't done anything. It's like the abyss of basketball. We're not even in basketball hell or football hell like the Bears are. They're just in the abyss. So they finally have a heartbeat, and we got a player that makes the all-star team, which isn't, doesn't happen all the time. I believe it's only like the 16th all-star ever in Bulls history. It's not like every year. It's not like football, we're a Pro Bowler.
12 guys per conference or something like that.
Right. So you make the all-star team. That's a big accomplishment. And Zach LaVine is putting up Jordan-like numbers. Now, this is a different NBA, but he's putting up like 35 a night and, has this crazy athleticism. When we got him for Jimmy Butler, he had just come off the ACL injury, and that's a scary thing when you're talking about a guy with his kind of athleticism, but he's kind of worked his way up the ladder slowly but surely. I don't know if it was a quick ascension necessarily because he's been here a few years. And I guess that's why I haven't bought into the Bulls, because they have these guys, Wendell Carter, Lauri Markkanen, Denzel Valentine, who used to play for Michigan State, and, Kobe White, who just got here. And Kobe White, Patrick Williams are a little more interesting because they're fresh and they just got here. Right. But these other guys, like, I'm looking at them and I'm just like, they're just guys. Like, I can't see it yet. And I try to invest my time and watch them. At the start of the year, it was like homework to watch them. They were not fun to watch. But now all of a sudden they've gotten hot. And I'm like, how I'm 10 toes deep in the March Madness right now. So for me to try to, spread my time out to invest my time in the Bulls too, when I'm trying to potty train and lay bricks and everything else, it's truly not easy. So I feel like I've kind of missed the train a little bit, but you see as Shaquille O'Neal's thought, Zach LaVine tearing up the league right now. And he certainly is. So it's becoming appointment television once again. And that's exciting as a Bulls fan. Once they get into that, I'm not going to call it bandwagon, because I don't think they're, the bandwagon fans will probably come at the end of the year and start of next year when the Bulls really start to make their climb. But certainly starting to sniff back to the Bulls and trying to work myself back into it, like because right now with the Boilers, every dribble counts. So that's the kind of basketball I love. And watching some of these early regular season games for the Bulls, it didn't feel like every possession mattered. But certainly last night, watching the overtime game against Minnesota, every possession was important. It was just like any, game Purdue's playing in right now, where every little inch counts. And, they were able to scrap their way to a win with some impressive, shots, made down the stretch by Zach LaVine, hit a big three to seal it. So, I've got my eyes on the Bulls now. Wish I could go to the games. Makes it a lot more fun to get invested in them when I'm there, but couldn't get the press credentials to the Bulls games just yet. But we're working on it here at Brags.
One step at a time. One step at a time. We got to be happy with what we get these days in these last year or so. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Right. We shall see what happens, but I wanted to share some of that stuff along. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the Russell Wilson news obviously was huge. Wanted to touch on that. Certainly would give up anything that I'm willing to do for Deshaun Watson for Russell Wilson. And then, obviously, like I said, looking forward to the high school coverage that I'm doing for Region Sports Network. And again, shout out to Andrew Bellison. This video will live in Brags in the Stands infamy, Addison Grace's infamy. I can play this a million times.
Center fielder number 31, Addison Grace Braggs.
I love that. It's amazing. I can't wait to show her that.
Shirt looks so perfectly pressed. That's
perfectly pressed, perfect golden pipes. He's got the total package.
Total hair. He's got it all.
Total package. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for more Boilermaker basketball. Tomorrow night they play Penn State on the road. So no gimme. And Iowa just lost. Michigan State's down 7. Ohio State's trying to take control of this game, but no gimme for Purdue tomorrow night. So it'll be interesting to see how they do against Penn State. They beat them at home. It was an ugly game when they played Penn State, but they were in control of most of it. So I feel like, if they just play a cleaner game this time around, they're going to be in control again. But Penn State's got some playmakers. When Sasha was on with us earlier before the season started, he had mentioned, Penn State last year giving him some problems, because they have some guys that can drive the rim and make plays. So, there's no days off in the Big Ten. I've seen Nebraska play team stuff. Northwestern's at the bottom of the Big Ten standings now, but at one point they were ranked. So there is literally no team. There is no days off in the Big Ten.
Well, you look at that, records and things like that. And, you have Minnesota's above 500 overall, obviously Michigan State,
Look at the Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana there in the middle. Those are good basketball teams that are just getting bludgeoned because the Big Ten is so brutal.
So tough, yeah.
Purdue has just been fortunate at the end of the day. These games are coin flips. Purdue's had some miracle comeback wins in the second half that have helped their record to 10-6, or maybe they're 8-8 in the Big Ten right now.
Right.
And that's kind of the difference, those inches. And that's why it's so exciting. It's literally they're fighting for every inch.
Like any given Sunday.
Exactly right.
The inches we need are all around us. And when you add up all of those inches, it's the difference between winning and losing, between living and dying. Are you going to fight for that inch?
Yeah, I know the Boilers are going to be fighting for those inches. They're a young, scrappy team who's got a lot of fire and a lot of passion, and they're playing together right now. So it's a lot of fun. It was cool to have Evan Boudreau on and get his insight, as somebody that's played with these juniors that are on this team and now watching from the outside in as these freshmen kind of take their, stance as far as what they're going to put, their imprint on the team. It's a lot of fun. And I agree with Evan. I think they're a team that can truly make some noise in the tournament. They're in, but they got to still close the door. The door is still open, in my opinion. You cannot take anything for granted. So hopefully they're not, and I don't think they are. So, I don't anticipate any kind of letdowns or anything. But you got Penn State, then you got Wisconsin, and then you got Wisconsin at home, and then IU next Saturday at home. The storied rival. So, none of those games are gimmies. You'd like to go 2-1 out of those three. If you're greedy, you're 3-0, but you just never know. So you just really got to buckle up here. And then they have a makeup game at home against Nebraska that was never scheduled. So that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Now you want to hear some cool stuff. You talk about credentials, but I have sources, familiar with this situation. And I've heard, because there's been a lot of chatter in regards to that home game. And I think that there's a good chance that whether or not they play that game, from what I've heard, is going to come down to whether or not it has implications on Big Ten seedings, not necessarily the overall standings of the tournament, the main tournament, but the Big Ten tournament seedings. So a team like Purdue, who's trying to get into the top four, if they have to play that game, because then that means they jump a team, then maybe they do play that game. But if it has no implications, Purdue may not necessarily run to the door begging to play the game because it's not necessary, and then you don't have to worry about injury and everything else. And then it was explained to me that Nebraska's net ranking is so bad, and Brian Tonsoni could actually maybe help explain this. He's our bracketologist from Delphi Bracketology. He came on for our IU Purdue show earlier this year, but it was explained to me that Nebraska's net ranking is so bad that even if you beat them, it hurts your net rank. So it doesn't matter if you win or lose to them.
When you win by 50.
That's what I mean. So we'd have to have Brian explain that. Brian Tonsoni from Assembly Call, a very popular Indiana basketball podcast, and then Delphi Bracketology. But it'll be interesting. For me as a fan, I want, we just saw Purdue play Nebraska, and Purdue won by almost 20, and Sasha had 14 points in the second half and 4 threes. The fan of me is like, run it back.
Right,
You know,
right.
let's as soon as they beat them, I'm like, can we play them again tomorrow?
Yeah, that was fun.
Play that back to back, because you've seen that a lot with these Big Ten games. That with these rescheduled games, they try to reschedule them when they play their other game. So there's no competitive advantage. They just play back to back. Both teams have same amount of rest.
Right.
So I thought maybe that's when they were going to sneak it in. So then it had my ears up once, because they've had this whole week since they last played Nebraska to when they play tomorrow night to play. So, I thought maybe there was an opportunity there. As there's about 8 minutes to go in the Ohio State Michigan State game. Ohio State leads 53-50.
Wow.
Michigan State with the ball with 8 minutes to go. So it's a ball game, ladies and gentlemen.
I might have to go catch the last 3-4 minutes of that one.
Yeah, we're wrapping up here. Absolutely have to, because this is going to be a ball game. And if Michigan State wins, that's also going to help Purdue in the Big Ten standings. So a lot of action, a lot going on in the Big Ten. And we're going to be covering it here. Transition to Bulls basketball, maybe get C-Red Fred on, transition to baseball. Of course, Dom Frederick, the director of morale. I'm going to bring him on here eventually, and a lot of other Cubs guests, Danny Rocket from the Sun Ranto show, and many others. Of course, maybe get David Kaplan to pop back on here.
I got some good Sox stories too from back in the old neighborhood.
JohnnyB will be covering the Sox end of things as our in-house Sox fan. And, hey, last year I did on Shy Fans in the Stands, my previous podcast, before we reinvented it into Brags in the Stands, I had the pleasure of interviewing the organist for the Chicago White Sox for a long time, 30, 40 years, Nancy Faust, legendary organist, basically created the game of organ playing, in stadiums,
I used to run up to the old Comiskey Park when I was a little kid. Early in the game, we would always get there early when we did have the privilege of going. Mm-hmm. And back then, it was a little bit different the way everybody hung out. We would just go in, and my parents or my dad, whoever took us, would say, "Meet us here at the 7th inning." You were right. Just gone, baby. Wherever you wanted to go, you had a couple dollars in your pocket maybe to get some snacks. And we would go all over Comiskey Park, and we would often go up where Nancy was, and there was a glass up there and bang on the glass. And she would wave to us that she was playing her songs. And really great lady, did it for a long time.
Yeah, my mom would do the same, and she was always so warm and welcoming, like you weren't bothering her. So many people banging on the glass, and she still would be, dialed in. When we had her on, it was an audio show. So I shared this audio of her playing. But now that this is a video show, I can maybe pull that video back. It was somebody that was friends with her in the booth while she was doing her infamous na 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 hey hey goodbye, and all the fans are singing it while she's playing it, and she's got like a great rendition to it, and this person got a great shot of it inside her booth, and so maybe we'll have to bring her back on for baseball season, see how she's doing, and maybe play that video and recall that memory and put a video to it. Really, really cool stuff. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff to cover. March Madness in the thick of it right now, though. That's got my full and undivided attention. So I'm not gonna try to pretend and start covering Bulls and stuff like that just because it's hot. We'll get to Bulls basketball. One step at a time. We have football. Now we got March Madness. Then we'll have baseball and Bulls basketball.
About these guys too.
I'm not a hockey guy, JohnnyB. I am not. I admitted this on Twitter the other day. I'm self-admittedly not a hockey guy. The only hockey I've ever truly loved were the Mighty Ducks. 1, 2, and 3. Knuckle puck, and all the great history. Charlie Conway. Emilio Estevez, Coach Bombay,
Emilio Estevez,
Gordon Bombay. They're remaking Mighty Ducks. They're making another one.
Okay.
And there's like new young kids. and Gordon Bombay, Coach Bombay, is in this one. Really? So I don't know how I feel about it. I'm sure I'll watch it, but I won't. To me, what the three will always be those. But that's my only true hockey love. I was like obsessed with just playing hockey outside and those movies at that time, but I never actually got into the NHL. Not to say I didn't watch Jeremy Roenick and Chris Chelios and Ed Belfour growing up. I did, but it didn't grab me the way basketball did when I was a kid with Michael Jordan and I just didn't. The sport never grabbed me. And then when the Blackhawks went on their run, and there were so many, you want to talk about bandwagon, so many people hopping on the bandwagon. It just, for me, it's a feeling thing, and it never got into my feels. So I just couldn't ever really truly embrace the sport. But that's not to say that we can't talk about it here, Johnny B. If you're a big puck guy, talk the pucks. Go right ahead.
You never saw a hockey game in Old Chicago Stadium, I take it.
Well, I don't have very many memories of Old Chicago Stadium. I heard Mike Greenberg talking about his top 5 favorite destinations in his lifetime, and his top number 1 over Madison Square Garden, over all these amazing stadiums that Mike Greenberg from Mike and Mike in the morning on ESPN has all the access in the world that we could ever dream of. Right. He said number 1 was Chicago Stadium, and he said it wasn't even close.
Well, I can tell you I was there quite a little bit as a kid, and maybe we can get into that on a little show. And it's up there for me. It's definitely up there. I would definitely put it in my top 5. And the stories that I have of the things that happened, especially in that upper tank, which is where obviously me, or the way I was raised and where I'm from, and when we did get the privilege of getting to a game, usually with my uncle, who was a big hockey guy, and a cousin of mine was one of the top-ranked hockey players in the United States in the early 1990s, before U.S. hockey was really that big. So I used to go with him. And some of the stories and the things that I saw, and just the intensity of those crowds in that old stadium, it was quite a place. It was definitely sad for me when they did tear it down, for sure.
Yeah, Old Comiskey and Old Chicago Stadium, I've probably been to both, because I did go see, I believe, Bozo, a taping of Bozo there. I feel like I did. Or a circus. I think maybe
I'm going to say the circus.
Yeah, I think I saw the circus there as a very 3-year-old. So forgive me that I can't remember. But yeah, so I think those are some of my only memories. So, because I know I've probably been to both, but I was probably too young to remember. But it sounds very cool nonetheless. So, yeah, that wraps things up. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Everybody that's going to tune in later. Appreciate everyone sharing it along, and all the nice comments, sharing it on a few Purdue Facebook groups, and getting some really good interaction from those, as we move off of some of the football stuff. Obviously everybody knows us for our football prowess here at Brags in the Stands, but we're in the stands for all sports. So we appreciate some new viewers, with our basketball coverage and what we're going to do baseball. We're trying to keep where stuff is fresh and relevant, and, get back to our beloved football when time calls for it. We got free agency and the draft, and if Russell Wilson comes to the Bears, I'll go live as soon as that happens. Or Deshaun Watson or anything like that. If anything like that happens, we go live immediately. Deshaun Watson, live immediately.
Let's not forget, we're only a couple days away from March anyway, and March is known, as you know, as March Madness. We're only a couple days away. We got Greg calling the girls.
Maybe this is the madness
for Crown Point this Saturday. Let's go. March Madness. We didn't get it last year. I felt like everybody was missing something with all the, the season playing out. And then all of a sudden, like Evan said, they just said, no, you're off the court. And that was it. It was canceled. So I think a lot of people are really hyped for March Madness. And I believe March 1st is Monday, and the madness can begin.
Let's get it. And again, like I said, Michigan State, who was tipping off Purdue a couple weeks ago, they're in a dogfight right now with Ohio. And I am having trouble with my clicker now. All of a sudden, I want to give a shout out to my guy Trey Tunes. He's live on Twitch right now. He's a part of our show, what we do here at Brags and Stands, but he does a lot of his own work. He's doing some DJ karaoke and right now on the Twitch channel. He's live 12 to 2 weekdays typically, but he'll go live at night. In the middle of the night, we did a fun show the other night. I think it was last week. I did literally right after our show, I went live with Trey. After we talked, me and Trey were up till 2:30 in the morning. We went for 3 hours. Literally after we had 3 hours with Jake.
Right.
And then after we were done and we talked in the backstage, Trey Tunes and I, we did a little collab. We were trying to test some different things out because we've got a lot of different ideas. And Trey and I are going to go live on Sunday, and it's going to be just from his Twitch channel. So if you want to watch this show, it's kind of like a Trey Tunes Brags in the Stands crossover. And we're going to be using this platform here, and we're going to be live on just his Twitch channel. And you can watch that at noon on Sunday. We're going to do some fun stuff. Trey and I are trying some different things out, trying to get him here to help produce here so we can have some music, because I need wrap-up music right now, Johnny B. That's what we're missing.
I could have brought the JBL flip right here and hit it on my phone if you need some, we probably could break copyright law.
Well, we know the tricks, and we got to make sure these aren't copyrighted music, because we know from the D'Lo Brown interview that we got to make sure we behave in regards to copywritten stuff. God forbid
free promotion.
God forbid free promotion. You said it right there. So again, want to thank everybody for tuning in, all our new viewers and all our loyal listeners and viewers. Chubbs, don't know where you were to us tonight, but you're dead to us.
That's how we feel. They lost my parlay?
Yeah.
Maybe because Illinois lost my parlay against Michigan State.
Yeah. You know what? You're 100% right, Johnny B. And maybe I'll clip this and put it on Twitter.
I took my like a man.
Our loyal viewer, Chubbs82, and this guy is in our chats every day, but Illinois gets smacked in the mouth by Michigan State, and now Chubbs doesn't want to show up.
Hey, I took my L at the Super Bowl. I took it. It happens.
It does happen. So the March to Madness ensues, and we are always marching to madness here on Brags in the Stands. Again, thank you to all the viewers for the third time, and I want to thank our special guest, Evan Boudreau, formerly of the Purdue Boilermakers, for coming on, talking about everything he's been through in his basketball career, and then talking a little bit about these Boilers of now and everything they've got going on. Really appreciate all his time. Like I said, had a lot of respect for the way he carried himself in a Purdue Boilermakers uniform, and it was fun to chop it up with him. So maybe the next time we bring it on, we'll dig deeper into the basketball end of things. And again, appreciate all of his time tonight. So again, the March to Madness ensues. Purdue's got the Boilermakers tomorrow. So that about wraps things up. We'll be back sometime next week. You never know when we're going to come on. We typically try to do our shows on Fridays, but with the basketball season, try to maneuver around certain important games so I can do my coverage, and we bring you a fun show each and every week. So make sure you follow Johnny B along on Twitter. I'm going to let Johnny B wrap it up as he always does. He doesn't have the music like he always does, but he's always got the passion and the intense vibe. So why don't you bring those two Brags in the Stands once again? I didn't know what to say.
All right, baby. Well, March Madness is almost upon us. We're knocking on the door of March. February is almost over. The weather's getting nicer in the Midwest after the piles of snow and the deep freeze. I want to thank Evan for coming on the show. He was great to meet him and a great interview. College basketball, Purdue, Big Ten basketball is dominating. And let's have some fun. Let's get sports back. Cubs and Sox around the corner. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time at Brags in the Stands.
Johnny B knocking it out of the park, co-hosting with me. We miss you, Jake, but Johnny B's holding it down as he always does here at Brags in the Stands. So, again, want to thank everybody for joining. Had a lot of fun tonight. Really excited about the Purdue Boilermakers end of their season, obviously. So going to bring on some even more special guests here as we go forward, trying to effort those guests as we speak. So keep an eye out for those as we go forward. Next week, we'll bring you something. IU next Saturday. So try to bring you something before that game. So that'll do it here. I'm your host, Gregory Braggs, again, for my guy, Johnny B. As always, bringing the heat, bringing the intensity, and bringing the vibes. We appreciate you, Johnny B. So we will have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have the wrap-up music, Johnny. I don't know what to do. So have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brags in the Stands.